Metal Slug 2.
Metal Slug 2 was released way back in 1998 and weighs a whopping 362 megs. Sure, most of you remember 1998 as the year Ocarina of Time hit the scene, or perhaps you're a PlayStation fan and you were eagerly awaiting the release of Metal Gear Solid. But to metalheads, they remember 1998 as the year SNK released the follow-up to the absolutely phenomenal Metal Slug on the Neo Geo MVS. It was quickly followed up with an AES port shortly thereafter, and then it was released on countless other consoles and platforms and even portables over the years. What you're seeing here is the original MVS version playing on a consoleized MVS. You gotta love those things. Metal Slug 2 mixed things up quite a bit from the original, while staying true to its roots as much as possible. Instead of just having 2 characters, you now had 4 playable characters to choose from. Returning favorites Marco and Tarma were there, and they were joined by Eri and Theo. Theo is actually one of my favorite characters in the entire series. For whatever reason, I just love the humor of her. On top of the new playable characters, there were also support characters. The 2 featured here are absolutely excellent. One is a take on Ryu. He basically is a prisoner of war that shoots fireballs and is absolutely hysterical, and he follows you around so long as you don't die. If you die, he just sort of screams and runs away, and I love that. The other one is a wandering fool. No, she's actually just sort of like, I call her a treasure hunter, but whatever. She's just walking around aimlessly, and she's got this big bag, and she will just randomly drop you some sort of an item, either a goodie or a weapon. But if you sneak up to her and you slash her bag, she'll drop a whole bunch of stuff before she gives you that one item, or you could shoot the bag or do whatever you want. Players can also find new weapons not seen in the original, such as the laser gun. There's also armor-piercing rounds for your slugs, and a firebomb, which can clear out a nice group of enemies. There are also 3 new slugs, or vehicles, whatever you want to call them, in Metal Slug 2. There's the Slugnoid, which allows you to jump really high while you're firing in all directions. There's the Slug Flyer, which does pretty much exactly what you think it does, flies around. And then there's my personal favorite, the Camel Slug. Yes, that's right, the Camel Slug. I think you get the idea. It's brilliant. If all that wasn't enough, you can also transform your character in Slug 2. During the mummy stage, for example, if you're caught in a mummy's breath, you will transform into a mummy. And it's so ridiculous, it's awesome. In later stages, you can eat a bunch of food and become obese. Now, these transformations are an absolute riot, especially when you compare it with just the overall graphics of the game, which, as you can see, are utterly amazing. This is some of my favorite animation and favorite 2D from any game. There's something magical about the Metal Slug series that really comes through. And you attach that to the awesome soundtrack and special effects and sound effects, and man, you just have the whole package here. The core gameplay remains pretty much unchanged. You move from left to right, shooting everything you possibly can. You can get a new weapon if you rescue a prisoner of war, or you can melee kill enemies if that's what you want to do, if you want to sneak up on them. Well, let's be honest, you're just going to be running straight ahead, and you're just going to be firing like a lunatic, and if people happen to jump in front of you, you're just going to slash them down, and that's pretty much the way it is. You can also toss a grenade or 2 when the going gets tough, but don't go too crazy because they run out quick. At the very end of the stage, you face off against a crazy huge boss battle that are usually quite challenging. Just about everything about Metal Slug 2 is great, except for one teensy little problem, which you can clearly see here in the video. The game suffers from an incredible amount of slowdown. People originally blasted the game when it was released in the arcade scene years and years ago because of all the slowdown. In fact, there was so much slowdown and so much complaining that SNK sort of pulled the plug on the game and released an enhanced version called Metal Slug X, but that's a review for another day. In the end, Metal Slug 2 is a really fun game, but if you can't overlook the slowdown, which I don't blame you, it really, I mean, it's absolutely everywhere in the game, then you might want to stick with Metal Slug X instead and just, you know, look back on this one for historical purposes. Now, if you'll all excuse me, I have another review to tackle, and that one is for Metal Slug X.